Albert Breer is on the phone right now. How are you, Albert?
Good. How you doing, Rich?
So what happened? Did they let Dan Campbell come to his own conclusion? Did they want Kevin Coyle out in the first place, and Philbin refused to do it, and that's why he got the axe? What's the fingerprints on all this, Albert?
I mean, I think part of this, Rich, is just that they wanted Dan Campbell to make his own decision, and so they wanted to give him power. They knew that this is a tough situation for any interim coach, and so they got to send a message to the locker room. This guy's in charge, and so they gave him the interim job, and it was a little bit of an unconventional move. He's a position coach who doesn't have a ton of experience in coaching, period. And so they wanted him to evaluate the staff and make decisions. They make the decisions on offense first, bringing in Al Saunders and moving some guys around. And Dan actually met with Kevin Coyle on Tuesday, and then met with the rest of the defensive staff and talked to the players. Put him through one more practice on Wednesday just to kind of confirm what he was thinking, and made the move, I think, just in the last hour or so to fire Kevin Coyle. And I think the likelihood is that they may promote someone from within the staff now and then add some sort of senior assistant, whether that's I don't think it'll be Jim Schwartz. I know that they considered him, but maybe somebody like a Mike Smith, the former Falcons coach.
Who would come in and serve as that role? Who would do such a thing? I mean, unless you truly believe in the system and you believe in, having something to do between the hours of 6 a.m. to midnight, the type of job. I mean, who would come in and just say, yeah, I'll be a defensive, guru or consultant?
Well, I mean, I take somebody like Mike Smith, right? And obviously, I think he did some real good things early on in Atlanta, but it didn't end the way he would have liked it.
Right.
And now the Falcons are off to a 4-0 start. Now, if you're him, you look at that and you say, well, I'm a pretty good coach, and I don't like the way this looks. And you look at Miami, and you see a team that's got talent. I mean, defensively, Cam Wake, Dominican Sue, Brent Grimes. I mean, there's talent on the defensive side of the ball. And you say, if I can get in there and I can help, maybe I can make a difference. Huh. Maybe, in 2016, this winds up changing the narrative on who I am. And I'll have an opportunity somewhere else in 2016 because of the job that I did in helping right the ship in Miami and at least make it look like a good professional unit for the rest of the 2015 season. You can see some upside in that if you're that guy. And I know Mike Smith, he's always, the people who've worked with him would tell you, he'd be content to ride off into the sunset after his experience in Atlanta. But I can say this, that, once you get into training camp and once you get close to the season and then the season starts, a lot of these guys' perspective can change, and it's possible he just misses being in the game.
Albert Breer joining me here on the program. While I have you on the horn, Luck or Hasselbeck tonight? What are you hearing? Because Ian, I'm wondering if you're hearing the same stuff. That,
I think it's Matt's show tonight, and the Josh Johnson move obviously kind of telegraphed what was going on there. Mm-hmm. This is an injury that isn't considered. It's not a long-term injury, but it's one that I think you can make worse by playing on it. Here's the other thing that's kind of underrated there. They've got serious issues on the offensive line, the Colts do. Do you really want to be putting your 25-year-old franchise quarterback out there in this situation against J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney? Now, I know the Texans haven't been world beaters, but they've got horses to get after the quarterback and hit the quarterback and knock the quarterback around. And based on the state of their offensive line right now, the fact their one big offseason pickup, Todd Harriman's been benched, I think the Colts have to look at this, from a pragmatic standpoint and say to themselves, it makes sense to give him the extra rest and to get him ready for New England in 10 days rather than throwing him out here against one of the fiercest fronts in football behind an offensive line that's been beyond shaky through the first month of the season.
After yesterday's owners' meeting between in New York City, are we closer to a team or teams in Los Angeles? Are we really?
I think you're going to have a team in Los Angeles in 2016. I'll give you the one certainty. This is the one thing I've heard from absolutely everybody. Dean Spanos is going to have a stadium solution. So however this all works out, the Chargers are going to have a stadium solution, whether it's in San Diego or Los Angeles. Now, based on how things have gone in San Diego, you'd say, all right, it looks like that's not going to happen. They've been trying forever. So if they're one of the L.A. teams, I think that chances are the Rams are the other one. just because the stadium project that they put together is ahead of where the Carson project is. So at this point, I think if you had to, choose a leader as far as the different scenarios, I think the scenario is that the Rams wind up building that stadium in Inglewood. The Chargers join up with them, whether it's next year or the year after. And they're playing football next year in Los Angeles with the Rams there. And then down the line, the Rams and Chargers are going to be inhabiting that stadium in Inglewood in 2018.
And then do we take a look, stare at the 50-yard line at O.Co Coliseum and wait to see that 50-yard line turn gold to see if the Raiders get some form of solution that they find amenable? Because where do the Raiders sit on all of this, Albert?
I think the Raiders have kind of always been seen as the wild card. They were never going to be the first team in L.A. I just don't think the other owners were going to trust Mark Davis to be in charge of their future in Los Angeles. They've waited 20 years for this, and as much as, Stan Kroenke's got some political problems, among the other owners, but he's also got very deep pockets, and he could just start writing checks. And that's something that the other two owners involved in this whole thing can't do. So, Stan Kroenke's capital, I think, counts here. And I think because of Dean Spanos' situation, because he's got so many friends at the league and among the other owners, and he's become almost a sympathetic figure because he's been trying so hard to get it done in San Diego, that makes it likely that he's the second one. I think the Raiders have kind of been seen as the wild card, the one that could go anywhere, and that's St. Louis, that's San Antonio. I mean, who knows? Maybe down the road they replace the Chargers in San Diego. I think everything's on the board for the Raiders, whereas with the other two, it's either they're going to stay at home or go to L.A.
Albert, thanks for the knowledge. Appreciate it. We'll
Anytime.
Chat soon. You got it. That's Albert Breer, NFL Network. He's the one who first reported that Kevin Coyle is out.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.